Hey guys, do you find the sound of the fireplace pleasant? Tonight we have a cozy crackle going. And the soft hiss of embers might just be the perfect background as we settle in for something a little strange. You see, tonight we're diving into the weird, the uncomfortable, and the downright Seuss corners of the internet, all drawn from real people's experiences shared on Reddit. Welcome to the place where we quietly unpack the oddities of human behavior, one shady story at a time. This is Reddit Stories Reddit, your soft-spoken narrator for the night. I craft Reddit stories to fall asleep to. And tonight, we're threading together some of the most suspicious, shady, and jaw-dropping tales Reddit has ever served. The kind that might make you raise an eyebrow, then chuckle, then snuggle a little deeper under the blanket. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is where you are. I'm always curious. Now, turn off the lights, turn on the fan for some soothing noise, and let's get started on tonight's Reddit stories. Story 1. The coworker who faked her pregnancy. You ever get that weird gut feeling that something just doesn't add up? Like you're not trying to be nosy, but the math is just not mathing? That's exactly where I found myself with one of my coworkers, let's call her Tracy. Now Tracy was a lot. The kind of person who tells you way too much in the first 10 minutes of meeting her. Loud, dramatic, always the center of attention, and for some reason, constantly involved in bizarre life events that she just happened to share during team meetings. She loved oversharing the juicy parts of her personal life, her evil landlord, her backstabbing friend, her accidental run-in with an ex at a nude beach. Yeah, that kind of person. So, when she announced she was pregnant, it was met with a collective pause. Not joy, not excitement, just suspicion. She stood up during a Monday morning meeting, cradled her stomach like she was already 6 months in, and said, "I just want you all to know that I'm expecting, and I'll need accommodations going forward." We all clapped. Of course. I mean, you have to clap. It's workplace culture 101. But afterward, I caught more than a few side eyes. People were whispering. You could feel it in the air. Something wasn't right. For one, she never looked pregnant, not even a little. For someone who claimed she was nearing her second trimester, she still wore tight jeans and crop tops with no bump in sight. Her habits didn't change either. Still drank coffee like it was oxygen. Still smoked outside during lunch breaks. When someone brought it up, very gently, I might add, she snapped. "My doctor said it's fine. Mind your business." So we did, for a while, until she started cashing in on that pregnancy. She began requesting extra breaks, special parking. She got a more cushioned chair. She skipped out on a mandatory conference and cited pregnancy fatigue. Our, of course, bent over backwards to accommodate her. Legally, they had to. She submitted doctor's notes and everything. That's when things got weird. Her paperwork looked off. One of my closest work friends, Sam, used to intern at a clinic. He pointed out that the forms Tracy submitted looked like poorly photocopied templates. Generic wording, no actual medical office header. Just a blurry signature that looked suspiciously like her own handwriting. We didn't want to accuse her outright. What if we were wrong? What if she was one of those rare cases where pregnancy doesn't show until the 3rd trimester? What if her doctor really did say she could keep up her lifestyle? So we waited. Then came the baby shower. Tracy insisted we host it at the office, on the company's dime. She sent out a registry filled with high-end items, designer diaper bags, organic cotton crib sheets, a smart bassinet that cost more than my rent. People chipped in. I didn't, not gonna lie. I told everyone I was making something special at home, which was code for, I do not trust this circus. The shower was surreal. Balloons, cupcakes, a onesie cake. Tracy showed up in a tight white dress that definitely showed no bump. She posed for photos with a mommy-to-be sash. She smiled way too hard. But it was during the gift opening part that things took a turn. Tracy opened a pack of newborn diapers and said, "Oh, these are cute, but they're way too small. My baby's measuring big. I'll probably need toddler sizes straight away." There was a beat of silence. A few people blinked. Then Sam, with a completely straight face, Said, "That's unusual. You sure you're not giving birth to a fully grown man?" Laughter broke out, but Tracy didn't laugh. She turned red, and for the first time, she looked genuinely rattled. After that, things snowballed. HR got an anonymous tip, definitely not from me. I swear that maybe they should follow up with her medical provider directly. That's when Tracy suddenly miscarried. She sent out a dramatic email, filled with typos and emojis, talking about how she lost the baby due to stress at work and unsupportive coworkers. She demanded paid leave. But here's the kicker. She sent that email at 9:02 a.m. By 9:17 a.m. Someone on our team, probably the same anonymous tipper, had already found a now deleted Instagram post from a girl Tracy went to high school with. It was a rant about how Tracy had stolen her ultrasound photo and posted it online as her own. Screenshots were taken, receipts were gathered, HR was flooded. They launched an investigation, and to no one's surprise, Tracy's story collapsed like a wet paper towel. The doctor's notes were forged. The ultrasound was stolen. She had never been pregnant. She was quietly asked to resign the next week. No drama, no announcement, just gone. But the tea didn't stop there. Turns out, this wasn't even her first time pulling something like this. On her previous job, she'd faked a medical diagnosis to get a GoFundMe started. Someone from that company caught wind of our situation through LinkedIn and sent a very detailed email to our hour. It was a pattern. Now, every so often, I'll get curious and look her up. Last I saw, she moved states and rebranded herself as a holistic wellness coach for expectant mothers. I wish I was joking. Among the many comments on this post on Reddit, this one brought me the most special emotions, equal parts rage and hilarity. She really said, "Fake it till you birth it." Honestly, the audacity is impressive. If nothing else, I saw quite a few people commenting on this post on Reddit. But this one stood out to me as the best summary of all our feelings. This story has everything: drama, deception, a fake baby, and HR paperwork. I'd binge a whole season of this show. So what do you guys think? Have you ever worked with someone who faked something this outrageous? Tell me in the comments. I live for this kind of chaos. Story 2. I found my dad's second family. You know those random nights when you're lying in bed, scrolling through social media with no particular purpose? That was me. It was a Sunday night. I had homework I was definitely ignoring. And I was aimlessly stalking people on Facebook. No shame. We've all gone down that rabbit hole. Friend of a friend. Someone from high school. Someone's dog who now has its own profile. You know the drill. Anyway, I was deep into a comment thread on a post about 90s cartoons when I saw a familiar last name. Not exactly common, but not super rare either. Still, I clicked. The profile pic was of a smiling family, mom, dad, 2 kids, standing in front of a Christmas tree. The dad looked just like mine. Same laugh lines, same crooked nose, same thick, salt and pepper hair that he always said made him distinguished. I thought, whoa, doppelganger. I zoomed in. But then I saw the watch. My dad's watch. A vintage silver Omega. Super distinct. With a cracked face he refused to fix because it had character. My stomach dropped. I clicked on his profile. His name was listed as Dan W. That was my dad's name. He had a completely separate Facebook profile. Different from the one my mom and I were friends with. And this one had been active yesterday. It wasn't a ghost account or a spam bot. It was him. I clicked through photos like I was in a trance. Birthday parties, family trips, a daughter, maybe 10, and a son who looked about 6. They called him Dad in the comments. His wife, yeah, wife, not partner or girlfriend, tagged him in everything. I sat there, heart racing, flipping through evidence that my father, my very normal, suburban dad father, had been living a whole other life. For years. At first, I didn't tell anyone. I didn't even want to believe it myself. I figured, maybe it was a cousin. Maybe someone who looked a lot like him. But the more I dug, the less plausible that became. The photos were recent. The timeline overlapped with ours. He commented on their school photos on the same day he had supposedly been at my soccer game. The worst part? There were a few photos taken at places I recognized. A diner we went to as a family, A park where I had birthday parties growing up. The timeline didn't just overlap, it collided. So, I did what any Gen Z amateur detective would do. I made a burner account. I sent a friend request to the woman he was married to. Let's call her Julie. She accepted. I guess I looked innocent enough. Profile pic of a beach. A few random posts about music and coffee. I started messaging her, casually at first. Hey, I think I might have gone to middle school with your daughter. She looks so familiar. Julie was sweet. Too sweet. She sent me more photos. Told me her daughter's name was Clara and her son was Milo. They lived just one town over. She even mentioned her husband Dan and how he's such a great dad. He's always driving between work and the kids' activities. Driving between work and kids' activities. Huh? My next move was risky. I screenshot the profile, the pictures, the messages, and I sent them to my mom. Just dropped them into our family group chat with no context. 2 minutes later, I heard the front door slam downstairs. I raced down. My mom was in the kitchen. Phone in one hand, coffee mug in the other, but not drinking. Just holding. She looked up and said, "Is this a joke?" "No," I whispered. "I don't think it is." That night, we confronted him. Well, my mom did. I just stood in the hallway like an unpaid extra in a soap opera. She had printed the screenshots. Printed. That's when I knew things were about to get real. He came home from work like nothing was wrong. Tossed his keys into the bowl. Asked what was for dinner. And my mom? She slid the folder across the table and said, "Maybe ask Julie." The silence? Palpable. At first, he tried to lie. Said it was a lookalike. That someone stole his photos. That he used to be married to her and was just being a supportive friend to the kids. But my mom had already gone full FBI. She had marriage records, school enrollment forms, even Facebook check-ins that aligned with his business trips. It was over. In the days that followed, the truth poured out like moldy water from a burst pipe. He had married Julie during a work separation from my mom that apparently only he knew about. He had been dividing his time, lying about travel for years. He even used 2 different phones and claimed one was for company use only. The level of deceit? Olympic. Julie? She had no idea he was married to someone else. She thought he was divorced. I don't know what was worse, watching my mom's heartbreak or realizing that 2 kids out there, Clara and Milo, were about to find out their dad was a professional level liar. Eventually, both families imploded. Julie left him immediately. My mom kicked him out. He tried to keep in touch, but the damage was done. I didn't reply to his texts. He stopped trying after a few weeks. The hardest part was unlearning my childhood, because I'd always thought of my dad as dependable, funny, there for everything. But now, every memory had a shadow. Every time he said he was working late, every soccer game he missed, every canceled weekend trip, it all had a new meaning. I saw quite a few people commenting on this post on Reddit. But these 2 stood out to me as the best. This one hit hard. Imagine growing up thinking your dad just didn't want to watch you play baseball. Turns out, he was at someone else's game, cheering their name. And this one, which perfectly captured the emotional gut punch. It's not the lie itself that breaks you. It's realizing how many happy moments were built on top of it. Have you ever found something online that changed the way you saw someone you loved? I'd love to hear your story in the comments. It's wild what people can hide in plain sight. Story 3. My roommate had a hidden camera. Living with roommates is kind of like dating, but without the romance and with significantly more fights over dishes. You're sharing space, negotiating noise levels, and, if you're lucky, forming lifelong friendships, or, in my case, unraveling a mystery that turned into a full-on privacy nightmare. So, I was a junior in college when I moved into this 3-bedroom off-campus apartment. Rent was decent, it was close to campus, and I only had to share the place with one other girl. Let's call her Melanie. She was already living there and needed someone to take the spare room after her last roommate moved out unexpectedly. Red flag number 1. But I was broke and tired of dorm life. So I took the leap. At first, Melanie seemed cool, friendly enough, a little quiet, a little intense, but she kept to herself and was super clean. She labeled her groceries and alphabetized her DVDs, which made me a little nervous. but also kind of grateful. I figured we'd get along just fine if we stayed out of each other's way. The first weird thing I noticed was the mirror in the living room. It was this tall, full-body mirror, leaned up against the wall at a slightly strange angle. Not suspicious, just deliberate. Melanie had placed a houseplant in front of it, like it was trying to be decorative. But the mirror faced the couch in a way that didn't make much sense for. Looking into it always felt like it was looking at me instead. I didn't think too much about it until one weekend when Melanie went out of town to visit her family. I was cleaning up and decided to dust around the mirror. As I moved it, I noticed something odd. There was a tiny hole drilled into the back panel. And behind it, embedded inside the frame, was a tiny lens. Yeah, a camera. I froze. My brain did this weird thing where it simultaneously tried to deny what I was seeing and also scream, "Call the cops." I backed away like it was a spider and just stared at it for what felt like hours. Eventually, I grabbed my phone and started documenting everything. I didn't touch the mirror again. I needed someone to verify I wasn't going full conspiracy theorist. I called my best friend, Jess, and she came over within 20 minutes. We carefully removed the back of the mirror. And yep, there it was. A mini cam, wired into a battery pack, and tucked so neatly inside that I never would have seen it if I hadn't moved the whole thing. We didn't know whether it was recording to a memory card or streaming somewhere. That was the scariest part. What had it seen? How long had it been there? Had there been others? Suddenly, I was looking at my entire apartment through a new lens. I began checking everything. Air vents, smoke detectors, decorative knick-knacks. Nothing else turned up, but the paranoia had me scrubbing my entire room with a flashlight. I didn't know what to do. Report her? Wait for her to come back and confront her? Burn the entire building down and move to a yurt in the woods? Jess, bless her, had more chill than I did. She suggested I take the evidence to campus security first, since they often dealt with student housing issues. I did. They took one look at the camera and brought in the actual police. What followed was a blur of statements, questions, photos, and legal talk. They treated it seriously, thankfully. Apparently, this wasn't the first time something like this had happened near campus. And they wanted to figure out if Melanie was part of some larger issue or acting alone. When Melanie got back on Sunday night, she walked in to find the police waiting. I'll never forget her face. She didn't cry, didn't deny anything, just sort of sighed, like she'd been waiting for this moment, like it was inevitable. She was arrested on the spot. Later, I found out that she had installed the camera months ago, originally to catch her last roommate stealing her stuff. But after that girl moved out, she kept recording, not just in the living room either. Turns out, she had plans to expand into the bathroom. There was a shopping cart in her Amazon history filled with more spy equipment. Police found dozens of hours of footage on her laptop, which she'd tried to hide under her bed. Footage of me, sitting on the couch, watching Netflix, doing yoga, just existing in what I thought was my safe space. I felt gross, violated, angry. The landlord let me break the lease without penalty. Thank goodness. I moved out that week. For a while, I couldn't relax in any room without scanning the corners for blinking lights. I started covering all my laptop cameras and bought a cam detector off Amazon. Not exactly the carefree college experience I was hoping for. As for Melanie, she got hit with several charges: illegal surveillance, invasion of privacy, and some digital crimes I didn't even know had names. Last I heard, she took a plea deal and had to register as some level of offender. But I honestly stopped keeping track. I just wanted to forget it happened. But here's the thing. I still don't sit directly in front of decorative mirrors. Old habits die hard. Among the many comments on this post on Reddit, this one brought me a reaction I couldn't stop laughing at. Imagine spying on your roommate just to find out they mostly sit around eating cereal in a blanket burrito and watching The Office. Not worth the jail time. Sis. And this one really stuck with me in a more thoughtful way. It's terrifying how many people don't take privacy seriously until it's already been taken from them. What about you? Have you ever discovered something suspicious in your own home, or worse, after moving into a new place? Drop it in the comments. I need to know I'm not the only one who's bought a spy cam detector and used it way too often. Story 4. My ex got me fired. So I got creative. There are breakups. And then there are Category 5 disasters masquerading as breakups. Mine was the latter. It didn't just end in ghosting, crying, or blocking. It ended with me unemployed, livid, and plotting revenge from the comfort of my pajama-clad couch. So, let me rewind. I dated this guy, Josh, for about a year. We met at a mutual friend's barbecue, bonded over a shared love of Thai food and dark comedies. And before I knew it, we were one of those couples, you know, the kind who match Halloween costumes and argue about what throw pillows to buy. Cute, right? Yeah, for about 6 months. The second half of our relationship was a slow descent into ego, manipulation, and emotional gaslighting. Josh had a job in marketing at this trendy startup, and he always acted like it made him superior to anyone who, I don't know, didn't drink oat milk or own a ring light. I worked in a boutique digital agency, small team, flexible hours, good vibe. I liked my job, I was good at it. But Josh made passive-aggressive comments all the time. It's cute that you have a real job, babe. Or, wow, your company still uses Slack? That's so 2019. The breakup wasn't even dramatic. He cheated with a girl from his CrossFit gym. I found texts. He denied it. Then he blamed me for not being emotionally available because I didn't want to go on a juice cleanse with him. I dumped him on a Thursday and moved my stuff out that weekend. I thought that was the end. Oh, sweet summer child. A week later, I was called into a meeting with our. I had no idea what it was about. I assumed it was some routine compliance check. Instead, I walked in and was met with 3 very serious-looking faces and a manila folder. They accused me of abusing client data. Apparently, someone had sent an anonymous tip alleging that I had been leaking campaign drafts to competitors. Completely false. I was shocked, then furious. I asked to see proof. They said the tip included screenshots, fabricated ones. By the way, that looked like Slack messages from me, sending confidential files to a Gmail address. They weren't even good fakes. Fonts didn't match. Timestamps were wrong. But it didn't matter. The company was small and trying to look squeaky clean for a merger. I was a liability, so they let me go. Just like that. As I packed up my desk, it hit me. Josh. This had his fingerprints all over it. He knew what kind of campaigns I worked on. He knew the names of my clients. And he knew the merger was coming up. Because I had vented about it over dinner more than once. The worst part? I couldn't prove it. So I did the next best thing. I got creative. You see, Josh had a bit of a personal brand. He was very proud of his influencer-adjacent status, posted motivational quotes, productivity hacks, humble bragged about his startup work culture. He had a medium-sized following on LinkedIn and Instagram, and his employer loved showcasing him as their Gen Z golden boy. And I had time. So, I started collecting screenshots of old texts, notes from when we were dating, audio messages where he casually bragged about fudging numbers on reports to impress his boss, LinkedIn posts he clearly plagiarized from thought leaders, even photos where he was wearing company swag while, let's just say, partying unprofessionally. I made a nice little package, not to send to his boss, no. That would be too direct, too obvious. Instead, I made a fake Twitter account, professional looking, gender neutral name, bio like, digital ethics researcher, tech accountability, marketing trends. I started posting thought pieces. Then I posted a thread. Let's talk about unethical behavior in startup marketing spaces thread. And boy, did I talk. Without naming names, I detailed a case study involving a young marketing exec at a rising tech firm who faked performance metrics, manipulated colleagues, and participated in smear campaigns against competitors. Every claim was backed by vague but convincing evidence. DMs from victims, screenshots with cropped names, photos with faces blurred, and I made sure to tag his company's hashtag. It took off. Marketing Twitter loves drama. The post hit 10K likes in 2 days. Suddenly, people were speculating, commenting, gossiping, tagging their own nightmare bosses. And guess who had just posted a self-congratulatory piece about hustle culture and doing the hard things no one sees? Josh. The quote tweets were brutal. I didn't even have to say his name. The internet did it for me. By the end of the week, his company released a statement saying they were looking into allegations of misconduct and prioritizing internal integrity. Josh deleted all his social media. A week later, someone anonymously leaked that he'd been let go pending review. I didn't celebrate, not publicly, but I did treat myself to a giant slice of chocolate cake and blasted Beyoncé while dancing around my apartment. Now, before you judge me for going full cyber Batman, let me say, I didn't lie. I didn't fabricate anything. I just curated the truth. Strategically. And no, I never got my job back. But I did land a better one. At a company that actually values loyalty over LinkedIn clout. And they let me bring my dog to work. So that's a win in my book. Among the comments on Reddit, these two made me cackle out loud. One user absolutely nailed the mood. She didn't get revenge. She served poetic justice on a silver platter with garnish. Gordon Ramsay would be proud. And this one? This one was chef's kiss. Plotting revenge from the couch in pajamas is peak villain origin story energy. And I'm here for it. Ever had an ex torpedo your life, only to regret it when you come back 10 times stronger? Tell me your favorite revenge glow-up story in the comments. I might just read it next time. Story 5. The WA president stole my packages. Living in an HOA-run neighborhood is a little like joining a club you never asked to be part of. You pay monthly dues to be judged by your neighbors on your lawn height and mailbox paint color. And worst of all, there's always that one person who takes their role way too seriously. Someone who thinks a clipboard gives them godlike powers. Enter Linda. Linda was our WA president and self-declared protector of neighborhood order. Think pastel sweaters, oversized sunglasses, and the kind of smile that makes you instinctively hide your Halloween decorations. I moved into the neighborhood after buying my first home, thrilled to have a driveway and a backyard for my dog. Little did I know, I had just walked into Linda's plastic turf war. At first, it was little things, passive-aggressive notes about my recycling bin being visible from the street, a warning about my porch light being too bright for community harmony. And don't get me started on the time she cited me for having non-native plants in my front garden. Spoiler. They were daisies. But I tolerated it. I was the new homeowner. And I figured she'd chill once she got used to me. I was wrong. The real trouble started when my packages started disappearing. The first time, I thought nothing of it. Online orders go missing sometimes. But by the third package, each marked as delivered, each mysteriously vanishing, I started to get suspicious. So I checked my security cam footage. Nothing. My front door camera showed the delivery happening. Then, nothing. The packages were there in the early afternoon. Gone by evening. No car pulled up. No shady figure in a hoodie. Just regular foot traffic. I figured maybe someone was walking by and swiping them. Then one afternoon, I worked from home and happened to glance out the window just as a UPS driver left a small box on my porch. Not 10 minutes later, I saw Linda stroll by on her daily neighborhood patrol. And wouldn't you know it, she walked right up to my door, picked up the box, and popped it into her tote bag like she was picking up the morning paper. I blinked, rewound, watched it again. Yep, that was her. I couldn't believe it. My WA president was out here doing porch piracy in broad daylight. And in yoga pants, no less. I was fuming. I could have gone straight to the police. But then I remembered. This is Linda. She thrives on control. What would really get to her? Public humiliation. A lesson she couldn't quietly sweep under her monogrammed welcome mat. So I got a little theatrical. First, I printed a still frame from the security footage, just enough to show her face. Mid-swipe. Then I laminated it, labeled it, Porch Pirate, be on the lookout, and posted copies on every community bulletin board in the neighborhood. I even slid one under her door. I knew she'd come knocking. And she did, right on schedule. At 7 a.m. the next day, gripping one of the flyers like it had personally insulted her family. "Excuse me," she hissed. "What is this?" I gave her my best innocent face. "Oh, that? Just a neighborhood alert. I take package theft very seriously." She went beet red. I was moving the package for safekeeping. "There have been thefts lately, haven't there?" she said, eyes twitching. "I was going to bring it to you personally." "Really? That's so kind," I said sweetly. "Except you didn't." And also, that's literally theft. She huffed and marched off. I could tell she was rattled. But I wasn't done. Next, I attended the WA monthly meeting. Linda usually used these as her personal TED Talk time, rambling about community values and mulch thickness. But this time, I waited until the new business portion, raised my hand, and said, I'd like to address the ongoing issue of package theft in our neighborhood, including an incident where I have video evidence of a specific individual taking deliveries from porches. Gasps. Linda's face froze. I'll be submitting the footage to law enforcement. I added, but I also wanted to see if the WA had any measures in place for accountability when board members are involved. She tried to deflect, claimed it was a misunderstanding, said I was trying to cause drama. But the damage was done. Word got around fast. The neighborhood group chat lit up like Christmas. Suddenly, people started coming forward with their own stories, packages gone missing, odd notes on their doors, even mail tampered with. A week later, Linda stepped down from her position for personal reasons. But my favorite part? I got every single one of my missing packages back, delivered to my porch in a sad little pile, all opened and then hastily taped shut. No apology, of course. Just a post-it note that said, must have been a mix-up. Sure, Linda. Among the many comments on Reddit, this one had me giggling for a good 5 minutes. This is what happens when you give WA Karens a shred of power. They go full Gollum over a box of exfoliating foot masks. And this one really nailed the spirit of the story. You didn't just get revenge. You turned it into a neighborhood event. WA drama and community justice? Chef's kiss. So, listeners, have you ever tangled with an HOA tyrant? Tell me your wildest neighborhood drama down in the comments. I live for this kind of petty justice. Story 6. My roommate faked her kid's illness. Some stories start with a red flag. Mine started with a pink sticky note. I had just moved into a 2-bedroom apartment with a woman named Clarissa, who I found through a roommate finder app. Her listing was straightforward, professional, single mom, looking for a respectful, clean female roommate. The apartment was clean, reasonably priced, and the location was close to my job. I met her once. She seemed normal enough, and I moved in a week later. Then came the sticky notes. The first one was on the fridge. Please don't use the blender after 8 p.m. My son's ears are very sensitive. Alright, fair enough. Then one on the thermostat. Keep temp between 70 to 72 for medical reasons. Okay, specific, but whatever. Then one on the bathroom mirror. Absolutely no scented products. My son is extremely allergic. I had yet to actually see the kid. She talked about him constantly, 8 years old. Severe allergies, immune compromised, homeschooled. But during the first week I lived there, he was always at his grandma's house or in his room resting. I started to wonder if I had moved in with Norman Bates. Still, I gave it time. About 2 weeks in, she mentioned she was struggling financially because of medical bills. She said the dad was absent, and she was juggling work and hospital visits. She looked exhausted, so when she asked if I could spot her on utilities that month, just until her next paycheck, I didn't even hesitate. She promised she'd Venmo me back the next week. Guess who never Venmo'd me? Yep. And then the requests escalated. Grocery money, for his special diet. Uber rides, to the hospital. A very tearful plea for help covering a prescription because her card had been declined. Now, I'm not heartless. If her son was really going through this stuff, I was more than happy to help. But something wasn't adding up. One night, she said she was taking him to an emergency room and rushed out the door. She didn't come home till 3 a.m. I happened to be up reading and looked out the window when I heard the car pull in. There was no kid, just her and a bag from Taco Bell. The next morning, I casually asked how her son was. She said, "Oh, he's doing better now. It was touch and go last night, but we got through it." I nodded and made a mental note. Something's off. So I got curious. When she left again a few nights later for another appointment, I did a little recon. I knocked softly on her son's door. No answer. Then I opened it. Empty. I mean completely empty. No bed, no clothes, no toys, no child-themed anything. Just a couple of boxes and some folded laundry. There was no kid living in that apartment. I stood there for a long moment, heart pounding. Then I slowly backed out and closed the door. The next morning, I told her I needed to talk. I asked, calmly, where her son was. She blinked. He's at his dad's for the week. You told me his dad is completely out of the picture. She paused. He came back. We're working things out. Oh, okay, sure. I didn't press further. Instead, I reached out to the leasing office that afternoon and asked about adding another person to the lease, specifically a child. The rep sounded confused. Wait, she told you she had a kid living there? Yes. She's been on the lease solo for over a year. No dependents listed. Aha. I packed that night and found a friend to crash with for a few days while I sorted out a new place. But I didn't leave quietly. Remember all those sticky notes? I gathered every single one. Then I made my own. I left them all over the apartment before I left. On the fridge. Lying to your roommate isn't a dietary restriction. On the bathroom mirror. Your son called. He said to stop using him as an excuse. On her bedroom door. Maybe try faking honesty next time. She blew up my phone for 2 days, alternating between angry texts and sad guilt trips. I didn't respond. I posted a very polite, fact-based review on the roommate finder site. A few others reached out afterward. Turns out I wasn't her first target. She had done this exact sick child routine with at least 3 other women. But here's the best part. A few months later, I got a LinkedIn request from someone who used to work with her. I accepted out of curiosity. They messaged me, "Hey, just saw your review about Clarissa. You're not going to believe this, but she just got fired for stealing from the company charity fund meant for sick kids." I have no words. Actually, I do. Karma is real. Scrolling through the Reddit comments on the original post, this one stood out the most. Nothing says scam or energy like a mysterious, perpetually absent child and sticky notes with medical mandates. She's like a GoFundMe grifter with a post-it fetish. And this one? Pure gold. The fact that she chose Taco Bell over sustaining the illusion of her fake kid proves she's not just a liar, she's a bold liar. Priorities. Girl. So what do you think? Ever had a roommate scam you with a story so outrageous it could win an award? Drop it in the comments. I'm all ears. Story 7. My boss faked an emergency to spy on us. I never thought I'd work somewhere that made a spy movie look tame. But there I was, trapped in the fluorescent-lit jungle of small office politics and passive-aggressive email wars. And at the center of it all was my boss, Carl. Carl was the kind of guy who thought leadership meant lurking over your shoulder while you typed and measuring productivity by how many minutes you spent in the bathroom. He wore the same 2 shirts in rotation, one with a stain shaped suspiciously like Florida, and always acted like his job as regional branch manager of a moderately failing marketing firm gave him CIA-level authority. Our office was small, just 6 of us crammed into a sad beige cubicle grid with dying plants and a vending machine that ate your money 30% of the time. We worked hard, we hit our deadlines, but Carl didn't trust anyone. He'd do things like randomly pop in on weekends to check inventory. We didn't have inventory. And once he emailed the entire office at 11:52 p.m. just to see who'd respond. But nothing could have prepared us for the great emergency of last March. It was a Wednesday, a sunny, regular old hump day. We were going about our business. Linda was microwaving fish like a war criminal. Mark was in a meeting pretending not to be asleep. And I was working on a campaign that was 2 weeks overdue. At 2:14 p.m., Carl burst into the office, red-faced and panting. "I have to leave, emergency. Family emergency," he gasped. "Don't worry, I trust you all to keep things running smoothly." Then he was gone. At first, we were a bit concerned. Emergency? That sounded serious. Maybe his mom was in the hospital or something. But then, weird things started happening. 30 minutes later, Linda went to the break room and found the door slightly ajar, and Carl's distinct brown loafers poking out from behind the janitor's closet. She screamed. He bolted upright, holding a clipboard and a bag of Cheez-Its. I was checking the pipes. He stammered, then fled again. We all gathered in the hallway. "What is he doing?" I asked. "I think he's spying on us," Mark said, deadpan. The man faked a family emergency to go full James Bond on a team of underpaid marketers. And it didn't stop there. Over the next hour, we found 3 more Carl sightings. Behind the filing cabinet, recording something on his phone. Inside a cardboard box in the storage room. Yes, a grown man, in a box, peeking through the blinds from outside the building with binoculars. Binoculars. By 4 p.m., the entire office had banded together in silent rebellion. We started speaking in exaggerated tones, pretending to slack off just to mess with him. Linda loudly said, "Wow, I sure am not working right now. I might even steal a stapler." Mark replied, "Great idea, Linda. While you do that, I'll go take my 7th bathroom break of the day." I joined in. "Hold on. Let me order a cake with the company card and nap under my desk." We cackled. Around 5 p.m., Carl finally returned, acting like he'd just come from a hospital. "Thanks for holding down the fort," he said, eyes darting around, obviously waiting for us to confess something. But we said nothing. We just smiled. The next morning, he emailed a bizarre memo titled "Workplace Trust and Transparency" that was basically a passive-aggressive novella. He mentioned concerns about staff focus and the need for heightened vigilance. He didn't say anything about hiding in the janitor's closet, of course. So we decided to respond in kind. That Friday, Mark brought in a cardboard cutout of Carl's face and stuck it behind a fake fern. We called it Spy Carl. Then we each took turns documenting our bad behavior in a logbook titled "The Secret Lives of Unsupervised Employees." Some highlights. Linda confessed to humming the Jeopardy theme for 45 minutes. I recorded myself dramatically reading emails from corporate-like Shakespearean monologues. Mark created an entire fictional intern named Kevin who handled our coffee ethics. After a week, we mailed the logbook anonymously to Carl's desk. He never said a word. But we noticed something interesting. He stopped sneaking around. No more pop-ins. No more fake emergencies. He even started using actual sick days like a normal human. We think we embarrassed him just enough to back off. Or maybe he realized we'd turned him into office comedy gold. And that, dear listeners, is how our boss tried to gaslight us with a fake family emergency, only to become the main character in his own sitcom. Scrolling through the Reddit comments on this post made me laugh out loud. But these two took the cake. Your boss really said, "I trust you," and then immediately crawled into a mop closet like Gollum guarding the office supplies. And another one with pure sarcasm magic. I too hide in janitor closets to watch people work. Because nothing says healthy workplace culture like light espionage. So, now I'm curious. Have you ever worked somewhere where the boss lost their mind a little? Or a lot? Share your story in the comments. I could do an entire season of these. Story 8. I faked sleep to catch my boyfriend lying. You ever get that gut feeling? The one that taps your ribs, whispers in your ear, and says, "Hey, something's not right here." Yeah, that's where this all started, with a weird hunch and a bad dream. My boyfriend, Matt, and I had been dating for about a year. He was charming, funny, great with my dog, and just the right amount of sarcastic. We had reached that point where toothbrushes were exchanged and drawers were given. He had a key to my place, and we had a Sunday night pizza ritual. But lately, something was off. He started being overly sweet out of nowhere. Like, brought you coffee and flowers on a Tuesday, sweet. Which might sound nice, but I know Matt. He's the kind of guy who thinks gift cards count as romantic gestures. So suddenly showing up with an almond milk latte and peonies? My inner detective raised an eyebrow. Then he started being cagey with his phone, turning off notifications, putting its screen down, even laughing at texts and then immediately locking it when I walked in. Classic signs. So I did what any rational person with intrusive thoughts and a subscription to our suspicious would do. I created a plan. Matt was staying over one Friday night. I told him I was exhausted after dinner and went to bed early. And then, I faked sleep. Now, let me tell you, faking sleep is an Olympic sport. You can't just lie there. You have to breathe evenly, twitch a little, shift your leg like you're dreaming. I committed. I was method acting at this point. Around midnight, he got up, thinking I was out cold. I heard him walk into the living room. Then the faint sound of his phone unlocking. I slowly peeked, one eye open. He was on the couch, phone glowing, whispering into his AirPods. And then I heard it. Her voice. A woman. Laughing. Through the AirPods. Like he was on a FaceTime call. I couldn't make out what she was saying. But his responses were clear. Yeah, she's asleep. I told you. She's always out by 10. I felt my stomach turn. I wanted to scream. To jump up and yell. Excuse me? But I held still. I wanted the full picture. I needed to know how deep this betrayal ran. He talked for about 15 minutes. Laughing. Flirting. Even saying things like, "Nah, I'll sneak out in the morning." Oh, how romantic. Eventually, he hung up, tiptoed back into bed, and kissed me on the forehead like he wasn't just planning to ghost me like a Netflix villain. I didn't sleep a single second that night. My brain was sprinting in every direction, trying to figure out what to do next. The next morning, I made him pancakes, smiled, acted like nothing was wrong. Then I asked him, super casually, "Who were you talking to last night?" His fork froze halfway to his mouth. Huh? What do you mean? I woke up around midnight. Heard voices. Oh, I was watching a YouTube video. Some comedy podcast. Right, I said, because YouTube videos definitely flirt back. The look on his face was priceless. I didn't wait for him to respond. I just slid my phone across the table. I had recorded the whole thing. The audio wasn't perfect, but it was clear enough. Always out by 10, I quoted back to him. He looked like a deflated balloon. Tried to stammer an explanation about it being a friend. A joke. Just teasing. I stopped him. Pack your stuff. I want you gone in 30 minutes. He tried to argue. Switched tactics from anger to guilt to tears. I stayed calm. You know why? Because I'd already changed the locks. And my cousin was sitting in his car across the street. Just in case Matt got any funny ideas about making a scene. Matt left with his dignity in a shoebox and 0 pancakes. And I ate those pancakes myself. With extra syrup. Afterward, I posted the story anonymously on Reddit to blow off steam. The comments came flooding in. But these two really stuck with me. Faking sleep to catch your man lying is a top-tier psychological thriller move. Girl, you didn't just uncover the truth, you directed it. And this one? It hit that perfect balance of supportive and sassy. He kissed you on the forehead after cheating. That's villain behavior. You dodged a rom-com antagonist in the making. It's wild how your intuition knows before your heart catches up. So if you ever get that whisper in your gut, listen to it. And hey, have you ever caught someone lying in a hilariously dramatic way? Faked sleep? Snooped a little? No judgment, we've all been there. Share your spy stories in the comments. Story 9. My sister lied about cancer for attention. This one still stings. And honestly, I'm still unpacking it. But here we are. I always thought my sister Riley had a flair for the dramatic. Growing up, she was the kind of kid who'd fake cry if she dropped her popsicle just to make sure everyone saw her suffering. Me? I was the quiet sibling. The one who got straight A's and didn't rock the boat. We weren't super close as adults. We texted, saw each other on holidays, occasionally liked each other's Instagram posts. But everything changed the day she called me and said, "I have cancer." I froze. She said it was lymphoma. Stage 2. She sounded oddly calm. No tears. Just this kind of heavy, rehearsed tone. My heart dropped into my stomach. I told her I'd be there for her. Whatever she needed. Within days, she posted it on Facebook. Tons of sympathy poured in. Friends, family, old coworkers, even her ex from college messaged her. She said it helped her feel loved again. I started visiting her every weekend. She lived about 2 hours away. And each visit left me emotionally drained. She never looked sick. No hair loss. No weight changes. No signs of fatigue. She always had a full face of makeup and somehow kept finding the energy to post daily, warrior updates, on Instagram. She even asked me to take pictures of her looking pensive by a window, captioned, "Fighting battles you can't see, heartbreak butterfly #cancer warrior." Something didn't feel right. I tried to push the doubt away. I mean, who lies about something like that? But then the little things started piling up. She never had a single doctor's appointment I was allowed to attend. Always said it was too early in the morning, or too emotionally heavy. She couldn't name her oncologist. She once, accidentally, mentioned taking chemo pills, which, as I later Googled, Isn't how lymphoma is typically treated. And the final straw? A GoFundMe link she sent me privately, asking me to help share it discreetly. She said she needed money for an experimental treatment not covered by insurance. But the description was vague and sketchy, so I clicked donate, entered $5, and just before confirming, I noticed something odd. The beneficiary? A PayPal account with her boyfriend's username. Now, her boyfriend was jobless. I'm talking full-time gaming, part-time scamming, and suddenly it all clicked. I didn't say anything at first. I played dumb. Instead, I called my mom and gently asked, "Has Riley shown you any medical records?" My mom was quiet, then said, "Well, no, but she did show me an Amazon card of wigs she might buy. And she said she's too emotionally raw to explain treatment details." So I did what I had to do. I went full Reddit detective mode. I called the hospital she claimed to be treated at, under the pretense of helping a family member. They couldn't give specifics due to privacy, of course. But when I asked if Dr. Monahan, the name Riley had mentioned, worked there, they said, "We have no doctor by that name." I even checked the GoFundMe terms and reported the campaign anonymously. It was taken down within 48 hours for violating the terms of service. Guess I wasn't the only one with doubts. Finally, I confronted her. I told her I knew, that I'd checked everything, that I didn't believe her. She went silent, then burst into tears, not the gut-wrenching sobs of someone caught, but the high-pitched, hiccuping whine she used to use in high school when she wanted sympathy. "You don't understand what it's like," she cried. "No one pays attention to me unless I'm broken." I stared at her, stunned, hurt, furious. "But cancer, Riley?" I said. "You don't fake cancer." She tried to play victim, saying it wasn't about money, it was about connection, about feeling important. I left. I haven't spoken to her since. My parents were devastated, too. They'd already told half their church about Riley's battle. In the end, she deleted all the posts, claimed it was a misdiagnosis, and that she didn't want to talk about it anymore. Sure, Reddit had a field day with this one. I posted it, not even expecting much, but the response was massive. These two comments really stuck with me. She wanted attention so badly she skipped right past a dramatic haircut and went straight for fake chemo. Unbelievable. "I hope you're doing okay. You didn't deserve that betrayal." And this one cut deep. But it was spot on. People like this make it harder for real cancer patients to get empathy. She wasn't just lying to family, she was stealing someone else's pain for likes. I still feel a mix of sadness and rage. But mostly, I just feel tired. Tired of pretending everything's okay when someone you love crosses a line you can't uncross. Have you ever had someone fake something serious for sympathy? Or been betrayed in a way that made you question everything? Let me know in the comments. I'm listening. Story 10. My ex tried to get me fired anonymously. Breakups are hard enough without sabotage. But apparently, for my ex, ending things with a dramatic flair wasn't optional, it was a full-blown mission. Let me back up. I dated Jake for 2 years. We met through mutual friends, bonded over a shared love of Thai food and indie horror films. And honestly, I thought he might be the guy. But somewhere around the 18-month mark, things started to sour. He was jealous of everything, my coworkers, my guy friends, even my dog trainer. He picked fights out of nowhere. And when I got promoted at work, he said, "Don't let it go to your head." Real Prince Charming. So I broke up with him. It wasn't dramatic. I didn't throw plates or torch his hoodie collection. I just sat him down, told him I was tired of being minimized, and asked him to leave my apartment key on the table. He left in a huff. And for a while, I thought that was it. Then weird things started happening at work. At first, it was little stuff. My boss asked about an email I supposedly forgot to respond to, but I'd never seen it. Then came an anonymous tip to HR about my inappropriate relationship with a client, which was both hilarious and confusing, since my job involved spreadsheets and zero human interaction outside my team. Our called me in. They said they'd received a concerned report about me breaking company ethics rules. Apparently, I'd been spotted exchanging favors for professional gain. What kind of vague soap opera nonsense? They couldn't tell me who submitted the tip, but the phrasing was oddly specific. And weirdly personal. It mentioned my favorite coffee order, my exact cubicle number, and the name of my cat, who I only mentioned to a few people. My stomach sank. Jake. I knew it. He was the only one petty enough, obsessive enough, and free enough. He was between jobs, i.e. unemployed, to pull something like this. So I decided to play a little game. I texted Jake out of the blue. Hey. Hope you're doing okay. Crazy week at work. Someone filed a fake complaint about me. The language sounded familiar. 2 hours later, he replied with, wow, that's awful. People can be so vindictive. Hope you're not in trouble. Oh, Jake. That guilt text was dripping with irony. I didn't reply. Instead, I took action. First, I talked to IT. I asked if they could track the anonymous tip's IP address, saying I believed it was harassment. They said they'd investigate. Second, I printed out every message Jake had ever sent me that was even remotely passive-aggressive about my job. There were a lot. And then the cherry on top. I remembered that 2 weeks before the breakup, he had used my laptop to order pizza, and forgot to log out of his Gmail. I opened a private browser and tried it. Guess what? Still logged in. I navigated to Sent Mail. And there it was. An email to my company's HR address. Sent from a burner Gmail account with the name, Concerned Colleague 94. Subject. Urgent ethics violation. It was identical to the complaint they'd received. Word for word. I took screenshots. Lots of them. When I went to HR the next day, I calmly showed them the evidence. Their eyes widened. They said they'd escalated to legal and security. Jake, sweet Jake, got a call from the legal department asking him to cease all contact with any of the company's employees. He tried to deny everything, until they mentioned the IP logs and screenshots. I never heard from him again. But I did receive an official apology from Hour for the stress. And a gift card, which, honestly, felt a little weird, but hey, free coffee. Naturally, I shared my story online. Reddit was on fire. These 2 comments made me laugh and cry at the same time. Your ex really tried to side quest into becoming your office nemesis. That man has too much time and not enough self-awareness. And this one? Instant classic. Petty people stay unemployed for a reason. He went from boyfriend to Bond villain real quick. If you've ever had someone try to sabotage your life after you dumped them, tell me about it. Let's vent together. The comments are open, and I'm all ears. Story 11. I switched my twin's job interview slot. So, I have an identical twin brother. And yes, that alone already makes life weird sometimes. The whole switching places thing? We've done it a couple of times, harmless stuff. Like covering for each other in school, fooling our friends, and maybe one very successful April Fool's prank on our parents. But this one wasn't harmless. This was revenge, and I'm not exactly proud of it. But I'm also not sorry. Let's rewind. My brother, Nate, and I have always had that classic twin dynamic. Me, the more responsible, laid-back one, him, the charming screw-up with a flair for manipulation. We used to be close. But as we got older, things changed. I studied hard, worked my way through college, landed a solid job in tech support. Nate, he bounced around from gig to gig, relying on charisma and shortcuts. And when shortcuts failed, he leaned on me. I let it slide, until he crossed the line. A few months ago, I found out he had used my name and resume to apply for a job at a pretty prestigious software company. Why? Because I had a stronger background. And he thought he could figure it out on the job if he got in. He didn't even tell me. I only found out because I got an email from the company confirming my interview. I confronted him. He laughed it off. Dude, relax. I needed a job. You weren't even applying there. Yeah, not the point, Nate. And then he said, come on, man, you've got everything. Just let me have this. That hit a nerve. Because I do work hard. And Nate's been skating through life off the benefit of our shared face while I carry the weight of responsibility. This wasn't just a job thing. It was the last straw in a lifetime of him taking what he didn't earn. So I made a choice. I went into full passive-aggressive older twin mode. First, I logged into the scheduling portal for the interview, which, of course, he used my email for. I found his slot. Friday at 11 a.m. via Zoom. He was so proud of himself, thinking he'd pulled one over on the system. Then, I rescheduled his interview for Thursday at 8 a.m. with a different interviewer. A notoriously tough one, based on company Glassdoor reviews. He didn't check his emails. I knew he wouldn't. He never does. On Thursday morning, I got up early, got dressed, and logged into the Zoom link using the account he had set up. Full suit, clean shave, everything. And I tanked the interview. I told them I'd forgotten what position I applied for. I asked if the company offered nap breaks. I said I preferred a chill vibe over stressy deadlines. I even burped on purpose. Needless to say, I didn't get a callback. On Friday, Nate got ready for what he thought was his interview. He was all hyped up, hair gelled, fake confidence in full swing. Then he got the "thanks for attending yesterday's interview" email. Confusion, panic, rage. He burst into my apartment demanding to know what happened. I looked him dead in the eye and said, "I helped you out, just like you wanted." He started yelling, but honestly, I didn't care. For once, he was the one cleaning up a mess he made. Eventually, he left. He sulked for a few weeks, posting vague, fake people stories on Instagram. But he never owned up to it publicly. I don't think he wanted people to know how far he went to cheat the system, or how badly he got outplayed. Am I proud? No. But I don't regret it either. I posted about it on Reddit, curious if I had crossed a moral line. The response? Let's just say the twins of Reddit came to play. This comment nailed it. He tried to wear your skin for a job interview and got mad when it didn't fit. Classic parasitic twin energy. And this one was my personal favorite. This isn't revenge. This is karmic equilibrium delivered in high-definition Zoom resolution. So, fellow Reddit dwellers, have you ever had someone cross a boundary so hard you had to remind them that you weren't born yesterday? Especially a sibling? Let's talk twin justice in the comments. I'll be there. Story 12. WA president hid a secret backyard pool. So, I live in one of those neighborhoods with an HOA. You know the kind. Manicured lawns, cookie-cutter houses, and a board of people who take their tiny slice of power very seriously. Our WA president? A man named Ron. Ron is the kind of guy who refers to himself in the third person. Thinks khaki shorts are formal wear. He once fined someone $100 for excessive seasonal inflatables because their Halloween decorations included a fog machine. Basically, he's the suburban version of a dictator. But he masks it with passive-aggressive newsletters and friendly reminders about mulch height. Now, I like to keep to myself. I mow my lawn, keep my hedges respectable, and never paint my front door anything but WA-approved beige. I don't love the rules, but I follow them, mostly because Ron's like a hawk with a clipboard. Then one day, while I was cleaning out the attic, I found my old drone. Nothing fancy. Just a little quadcopter with a camera I used to mess around with. I figured I'd fly it for fun. Get a few aerial shots of the neighborhood. So I did, and that's when I saw it. A massive, fully built in-ground pool, hidden behind Ron's house. Under a big canopy, completely fenced in, camouflaged with fake shrubbery, and totally invisible from the street. It was elaborate. Now, if you know anything about our WA, you know pools require approval, permits, noise consideration, drainage plans, the whole shebang. I had a neighbor whose request for a jacuzzi got rejected because it might attract unruly gatherings. So Ron's secret backyard oasis? Not just hypocritical, illegal by our own rules. Naturally, I took screenshots. And then, because I am both petty and patient, I decided to bide my time. A few weeks later, Ron sent me a violation notice. Apparently, my trash cans were left at the curb for more than 14 hours. I checked. It was 12.5 hours. But sure, Ron, let's play. I printed the letter, folded it neatly, and dropped it, along with a lovely 8x10 glossy photo of Ron's unauthorized pool, into an envelope. I addressed it to the entire WA board. 3 days later, chaos. There was a surprise WA meeting. Ron didn't show up, but the board did. And so did about 20 neighbors, many of whom had received violation letters from Ron over the years for things like slightly mismatched shutters, or wind chimes audible after 9 p.m. One board member, a sweet retired woman named Margaret, Brought cookies. She also brought a binder. A very thick binder. Apparently, my drone shots inspired her to dig through Ron's property paperwork. Turns out, he never even applied for a permit. And the pool? Built using a friend's unlicensed crew. There were drainage violations, noise violations, heck, even tax code violations. Long story short, Ron was removed as WA president in a unanimous vote. Then came the penalties. The city got involved. He had to drain the pool, tear up the deck, and pay thousands in fines. The WA fined him too. And my favorite part? His property was now under heightened compliance review. Translation. Now he gets the clipboard treatment. And just like that, peace returned to the neighborhood. I got a thank you card from a neighbor I barely knew. Someone mowed my lawn when I was out of town. People waved more. It was like we all collectively defeated the boss level of suburban tyranny. Naturally, I shared the story online. And Reddit absolutely ate it up. This comment? Gold. Ron really said, "Do as I say, not as I swim." What a chlorinated hypocrite. And then this one had me chuckling for a solid minute. Plot twist. WA stands for Hypocrites Owning Aquatics. So, tell me, what's the wildest thing your WA has tried to pull? Or better yet, how have you gotten even? I live for petty justice. Drop it in the comments. Let's make a support group. Story 13. I rented my boss's favorite vacation home. I work in corporate finance, which basically means I wear a collared shirt to do algebra all day and pretend Excel is thrilling. My boss, let's call him Kent, is one of those managers. He's not evil, exactly, just smug. You know the type. Thinks his Tesla makes him a visionary. Has a standing desk and talks about disrupting the lunch break model. Uses synergy in casual conversation. Kent also has a favorite vacation home. It's this gorgeous mountain cabin he rents every summer. He brags about it constantly, how it's rustic but luxurious, how no one else knows about it, and how it's his creative reset zone. You'd think he owned it, the way he talked. Spoiler, he doesn't. I found this out during one particularly miserable Q3 review meeting, where he berated me for a minor spreadsheet error. We're talking decimal point level mistake, but he made a whole show of it, suggesting maybe I wasn't cut out for executive track. And then he bragged about the cabin again. Maybe I'll retreat early this year. Clear my mind. Get some clarity. That's what winners do. Sure, Kent, clarity, whatever. Anyway, out of pure spite, I googled the cabin. He'd once accidentally mentioned the property name during a call. Thinking he was muted, I searched it, found it. It was available for rental. Fully public. And, this is the kicker, bookable on short notice. And that's when the idea clicked. I checked the internal calendar. Kent was planning to take the last 2 weeks of July off, just like every year. So I did what any overworked, underappreciated spreadsheet warrior would do. I booked the cabin for those exact 2 weeks. In my name, paid in full. It was petty, but it was so satisfying. About a week before his vacation, Kent started getting excited. He talked about hiking, journaling, not checking emails. Yeah, right. I kept a straight face through every monologue. Then the email came. Hey, team, just a heads up. There's been a mix-up with the rental property I usually use. Apparently someone else got the slot. Real bummer. I'll be sticking around for most of my PTO instead. Cue fake gasps and supportive comments from the team. I just nodded and said, wow, that's unfortunate. Maybe it's for the best. You can really rest without the distraction of travel. He didn't suspect a thing. Meanwhile, I packed my bags. The cabin was everything he said and more. Huge windows, cozy fireplace, views that made my eyeballs cry from beauty. I brought my dog, a stack of books, and absolutely zero remorse. Every morning I woke up to birdsong. Every night I sipped wine on the porch and imagined Kent stuck at home, doom scrolling through Airbnb. I even left a message in the guest book. Had a life-changing week here. Discovered I am cut out for executive track. A fellow finance pro. Back at the office, Kent was noticeably grumpier. I got a glowing performance review 2 weeks later. Probably out of guilt, or the emotional toll of missing his annual Zen cleanse. Naturally, I told Reddit, and Reddit delivered. This comment had me howling. That man was trying to recharge his ego crystals in the woods and you just straight up snatched the last Horcrux. Beautiful. And this one? A poetic masterpiece. They say revenge is best served cold. But I think it's best served on a porch. With a blanket, overlooking a forest your boss didn't get to hike. So, fellow petty strategists, what's the pettiest thing you've ever done to reclaim your peace? I want details, especially if it involves cabins. The comments are yours. Story 14. My neighbor trapped me in a parking war. I live in a small apartment complex with limited parking, just a narrow lot shared by 12 tenants. Everyone gets one marked spot. Simple enough, right? Well, simple, until Doug moved in. Doug was my new downstairs neighbor. A man with the personality of a parking ticket and the charm of a speed bump. From day one, he had opinions, especially about the parking situation. Doug drove a jacked-up pickup that took up 1.5 spaces on a good day. And instead of squeezing it into his assigned spot, he started parking over the lines. Sometimes he'd use my spot. Sometimes he'd double park across two others. At first, I tried being polite, left a note, friendly tone. Hey, just a heads up, you're in my spot. No worries, probably a one-time thing. The next day, I found the note crumpled on my windshield, and Doug's truck still firmly planted in my spot. That's when the parking war began. I started documenting photos, timestamps, even videos. I compiled a beautifully petty presentation and sent it to the property manager. They gave him a written warning. He responded by parking even worse, diagonally across two spaces. One day, I came home and found orange cones around his spot, like he'd claimed it was reserved airspace. Who cones off their own assigned space? Then he upped the ante. He started parking in the middle of the lot, blocking the entrance like some kind of troll under a bridge. Once, I had to back all the way out of the lot and park 3 blocks away. That's when I decided to stop playing defense. It was time for a little legal creativity. I went on my local city website and looked up parking enforcement rules. Turns out, because our lot connected directly to the street and wasn't gated, city ordinances did apply to illegally parked vehicles on private residential lots. I called the non-emergency line and filed a report for an obstructing vehicle. Didn't say it was my neighbor. Just said a big truck was blocking multiple units from accessing their property. Next morning, tow truck city. Doug's truck got towed at 6:43 a.m. He came out in pajama pants and no shoes, running after the tow guy like his entire life was being dragged away. I watched from the window, sipping coffee, wearing a smile that said, "I warned you." He had to pay $300 to get it back. Of course, he was furious. Knocked on my door later that day. I opened it, super calm. "You got me towed," he shouted. "No," I said, "the city did. I just made a call about a vehicle that was violating parking access." Could have been anyone. He stormed off, slammed his door, and, miracle of miracles, started parking properly. Right in his space, like a normal human. But I wasn't done. See, I had been eyeing an unused spot at the edge of the lot. It wasn't assigned to anyone. After Doug's tantrum, I went to the landlord and asked if I could rent it for $20 a month for guests. They said yes. Then I gave it a sign. Reserved. Doug's backup spot for days when spatial awareness fails. He didn't touch it, but he saw it every day, and that was enough. I posted about the whole saga online, of course. Reddit did not disappoint. This comment was chef's kiss. Doug's entire personality is shaped like a parking violation. You brought him to justice like a suburban Batman. And this one was pure poetry. You didn't just win the parking war. You redesigned the battlefield. Doug brought cones to a paperwork fight. So, anyone else had a neighbor who made you fantasize about a parking boot? Or gone full lawful petty on someone who pushed too far? Drop it in the comments. Parking Trauma Support Circle starts here. Story 15. I pretended to be a ghost in my ex's attic. Before you judge me, just know, he deserved it. My ex, let's call him Blake, was the kind of guy who made gaslighting feel like a part-time job. He cheated, lied, and when I finally left him, he told everyone he broke up with me because I was emotionally erratic. Right, sure, Emotional instability definitely looks like calmly packing up and moving out after catching you texting someone saved as Jeff, plumber, at 2 a.m. Fast forward 6 months. I had a new place, a new therapist, and a shiny new sense of peace. But then a mutual friend casually mentioned that Blake had moved into this creepy old house on the edge of town. You know the type, attic with a single pull-down ladder, basement that probably smells like regret, and windows that scream. There's definitely a haunted doll here. Apparently, Blake was bragging about living there rent-free. Said the owner was an old family friend who was letting him watch over the place. Translation: squatting with permission. I should have left it alone. I should have just moved on. But fate had other plans. One night, I was helping that same mutual friend move, someone who, coincidentally, lived just a few houses down from Blake's new creepy crib. We got to talking, and that's when I learned the attic had a separate entrance from outside. My brain did a little click. See, Blake was a full-grown man who couldn't handle horror movies. The guy once screamed when a coat fell off a door hook. And he'd always been weird about attics, claimed they were spirit channels or some nonsense. So, with my friend's blessing, I borrowed a few tools. Flashlight, tiny Bluetooth speaker, a bag of marbles, and a full head-to-toe thrifted outfit that could pass as Victorian ghost child in bad lighting. I waited until I knew Blake was out. He posted his location like a GPS-enabled golden retriever, and slipped into the attic from the outside entrance. It was dusty, full of boxes, and surprisingly soundproof. Perfect. I got to work. Every couple of nights, I'd return. I kept it subtle, scraping noises, faint knocks, a dropped marble here and there. Then I added whispers, played from the speaker. Blake, it's not your house. The best part? I left no trace. He started texting people about it. I think this house is haunted. Do you think ghosts follow you from relationships? Oh, you mean like consequences, Blake? Then, one night, I waited until he was asleep and slightly opened the attic ladder. Just enough for it to creak. Then I whispered, in the softest, creepiest tone I could manage. Why did you lie, Blake? I heard a thump, then footsteps bolting downstairs, and a car screeching away moments later. He didn't come back that night. In fact, he moved out 2 days later, told everyone he had bad vibes, left a post on Facebook that said, "Some houses carry pain from the past." Someone commented, "Maybe it's you." I laughed so hard I choked on my tea. And yes, I confessed the whole thing on Reddit. Because of course I did. This comment? Iconic. You didn't haunt the house. You haunted his guilt. Ghost of consequences past strikes again. And this one nearly made me cry from laughter. Somewhere, there's a ghost going, "Hey, I was working that house, and you just showed up with better marketing." So tell me, if you could gently, non-illegally haunt one ex, how would you do it? Let's crowdsource the ultimate petty ghost guide. Comments are open for spectral suggestions. Story 16. I got revenge with glitter and a USB stick. Workplace sabotage, the artisanal petty revenge. This one's about a coworker we'll call Jared. Jared was the kind of guy who peaked in high school but refused to accept it. His keyboard clacked louder than anyone else's. He talked over people in meetings. And he called himself a thought leader because he once went viral for a tweet about cold brew. We worked in IT, which means we lived in a sea of cubicles, passive-aggressive post-its, and underappreciated genius. I loved my job, until Jared joined our team. From day one, he treated me like I was his personal tech assistant instead of a fellow systems analyst. He'd forward me his unfinished tasks with vague notes like, "Can you take care of this?" and then act like he'd done the work. Worst part? He charmed upper management. Always, just happened, to have coffee with our director. Always, bumped into the VP in the elevator. It wasn't networking, it was strategic schmoozing. And when I got passed over for a promotion that I had clearly earned, only for it to go to Jared. Yeah, that was the final glittery straw. I didn't want to nuke his career. Just frost it with a little poetic justice. So I planned something that required no hacking, no illegal activity. Just a deep understanding of how much Jared loved looking smart and hated looking foolish. Step 1. Glitter. I ordered one of those prank envelopes online that explode with glitter when opened. But I didn't just send it anonymously. I used an internal memo template and made it look like a corporate appreciation note. Congratulations on your outstanding team leadership. Inside, an avalanche of gold glitter. Step 2. The USB. This was the masterpiece. I left a USB drive on his desk labeled, Quarterly Optimization Slides, Confidential. And because Jared cannot resist a chance to flaunt his insider info, I knew he'd plug it in before asking questions. It wasn't malicious. It just contained a looping PowerPoint presentation. Slide 1. Gotcha. Slide 2. Maybe next time. Don't steal credit. Slide 3. A slow zoom on a picture of glitter. He opened it during a small team meeting. I watched his face turn pale, then red. He slammed the laptop shut and mumbled something about file corruption. Later that day, he stomped to my desk. Was that from you? Was what from me? He glared. I smiled. Maybe you should check with your leadership contacts. He didn't report me. He couldn't. He'd have to explain how he opened a suspicious USB from an unknown source labeled confidential. And that would have been a bad look. Over the next month, he started getting excluded from meetings. Management saw through him eventually. I didn't get that promotion. But I got the next one. And I got to keep my glitter-free keyboard. When I told Reddit, the response was glorious. This comment nailed it. A USB stick of shame and a sparkle bomb of accountability. This is cyber petty perfection. And this one? Oh, it belongs in a revenge museum. They say glitter is forever. So is humiliation. Congrats on installing both. So what's the pettiest office revenge you ever pulled? Let's build a whole manual. Bonus points for creativity, plausible deniability, and biodegradable glitter. Story 17. I outsmarted an WA with a lawn gnome army. So, I live in one of those dreaded WA neighborhoods, Homeowners Association. AKA the shadow government of suburbia. And I didn't mind at first. I like clean streets and matching mailboxes as much as the next person. But our WA president, Kathy, was a dictator in capri pants. She sent violation notices like she was trying to win a contest. Once, she fined my neighbor for having aggressively bright flowers. Another time, she cited someone for non-compliant trash bin placement. The bins were 6 inches from the curb. 6. My personal run-in came when I installed a tiny lawn gnome. He was cute, just a classic red hat little guy holding a tiny welcome sign. Not flipping anyone off, not doing backflips, just vibing. 2 days later, I got a letter. Violation of aesthetic harmony clause, unauthorized ornamentation. $50 fine. So I appealed it. Kathy denied it. Gnomes are not in keeping with the community's agreed visual standard. She wrote, as if this was a museum exhibit. Not a neighborhood where Carl 3 doors down still hasn't pressure washed his driveway since 2009. I could have just removed the gnome. But no, I bought 10 more. Then I read the WA manual cover to cover. And I noticed something interesting. The rules forbade lawn ornaments exceeding 12 inches in height, or displaying messages not pre-approved by the WA. So I went shopping. I bought gnomes exactly 11.5 inches tall. No signs. Just gnomes doing various activities, one fishing, one with a flamingo, one reading a book, harmless, legal, delightfully passive-aggressive. I added a new one every week, like some kind of ceramic invasion. Then I got other neighbors involved. Quietly, secretly. A friend on the next block put 2 in his flower bed. Another added a meditating gnome near her bushes. By month's end, we had 38 gnomes scattered throughout the neighborhood. Kathy sent out a mass email. Our community is experiencing a concerning rise in unauthorized lawn figures. Someone replied, all. You mean the gnomes? I think they're whimsical. That's when she really lost it. She scheduled an emergency WA meeting. We all showed up, most of us in gnome-themed t-shirts. One guy even brought a garden gnome in a baby stroller. Kathy brought a PowerPoint. I brought receipts. When she tried to claim the gnomes violated code, I read aloud the rule, highlighting the 12-inch limit and the message restriction. My gnomes were well within both. She tried to argue about community tone. I replied, then you'll need to find Carl for his Halloween skeleton that's been on his porch since last year. Silence. That night, She sent out a revised law proposal, one that attempted to ban gnomes specifically. It required a community vote. The gnome lovers turned out in droves. We defeated the proposal 41-9. The next morning, I unveiled my pièce de résistance, a custom gnome wearing a tiny suit and sash that said, "Wa President Forever." I placed it gently next to my mailbox. Kathy hasn't spoken to me since. I posted all of this on Reddit under r petty revenge. And the responses were, how shall I say, gnometastic. One comment really captured the spirit. You didn't just win, you started a cultural movement. The Hoa's power is no match for an organized gnome uprising. And this one made me laugh snort. Whimsical, strategic, and entirely legal. This is how you lead a revolution, one ceramic beard at a time. So now I need ideas for the next WA-approved mischief. Suggestions welcome. Also, has anyone else defeated petty tyranny with lawn decor? Story 18. My neighbor's dog pooped in my yard, so I trained him. There are few suburban betrayals deeper than a neighbor who refuses to pick up after their dog. Enter Todd. Todd lived 2 doors down. One of those guys who mowed his lawn shirtless even when it was 55 degrees out. He had a golden retriever named Duke, adorable, high energy, and apparently on a mission to fertilize every blade of grass on my property. It started off innocently. One little gift near my mailbox. Okay, accidents happen. Then another, and another, right in the middle of my front yard. Like Duke was declaring dominion. So I did what reasonable people do. I left Todd a polite note. Hey, I think Duke might be sneaking into my yard. Just a heads up, thanks for cleaning it up when you can. No response, but the poop kept coming. So I knocked on his door. Todd answered mid-sip of a Monster Energy. Shirtless, of course. I asked, very politely, if he could keep Duke out of my yard. He laughed and said, dogs go where they want. Man, nature, right? Nature? Okay, let's talk training. You see, in college, I volunteered at a shelter. I knew a few things about dog behavior. More importantly, I knew how to redirect it. Step 1. Tasty distractions. I started going out every morning with a pocket full of treats. Each time I saw Duke on the sidewalk, I'd call him over, reward him for sitting outside my lawn, then walk him back to his own yard. Step 2. Scent. Dogs hate citrus. I sprayed a homemade lemon vinegar mix on the grass patches Duke favored. Suddenly, those spots weren't so appealing. Step 3. Positive reinforcement, for me. Every time a day passed with no poop, I planted a tiny plastic flag where he used to go. Bright orange, impossible to miss. After a week, my lawn looked like a very polite construction zone. Todd finally noticed. He came stomping over. What's with the flags? Oh, I mark every day Duke doesn't poop here. It's like a celebration of progress. He blinked. You're weird. You're welcome. By week 2, Duke was actively avoiding my yard. One time I saw him pull Todd away from it. It was glorious. But it gets better. Todd's girlfriend, I didn't even know he had one, stopped me one day and said, "Hey, are you the one who trained Duke to stop pooping all over?" Thank you. I've been begging Todd to work on that. A week later, Todd and Duke moved out. Something about wanting more space. Pretty sure it was code for, I can't live next to the poop whisperer. When I shared this on Reddit, it picked up steam fast. One comment summed it up beautifully. You didn't punish the dog. You educated him. Meanwhile, Todd failed obedience school. And this one gave me life. Flags of freedom. Every little orange marker was a victory for lawns everywhere. I salute you. So if you've ever struggled with neighborly negligence, remember, diplomacy, consistency, and a spray bottle of lemon juice might be all you need. And flags. Lots of tiny, passive-aggressive flags. What's the weirdest or most creative way you've solved a neighborhood feud? I want to hear all the petty, brilliant details. Story 19. I outsmarted a car thief with a decoy vehicle. There's something oddly satisfying about giving a thief a taste of their own medicine, served with a side of slow, deliberate petty revenge. It all started when my beloved car, let's call her Betsy, a modest, slightly battered but very reliable sedan, went missing overnight. Vanished without a trace. Naturally, I was upset but also determined. The local cops were polite but blunt. These things happen. Sometimes cars just disappear. Great, that's helpful. But instead of sinking into despair, I hatched a plan. If someone wanted my car, I'd give them a ride they wouldn't forget. First step: create a decoy. I went to a local junkyard and bought a shell. A car that looked like Betsy but was missing most engine parts and had a few holes in the body. With some creative duct tape and a fresh coat of paint, it looked passable at first glance. I parked the decoy where Betsy used to be, fully unlocked and with the keys hidden under the fake floor mat. Classic misdirection. Then, I rigged a small speaker inside the car, playing a looping message: "Congratulations. You found the trap car. Enjoy your ride. The real Betsy?" Hidden safely in my friend's garage, complete with an "out of order" sign on the windshield of the decoy. The next morning, I waited by my window, popcorn in hand. Sure enough, a shadowy figure approached the decoy. They jiggled the door, pulled the keys, and got inside. That's when the speaker kicked in. Loud and clear. "Smile for the security camera. Thief, you're on candid camera, courtesy of your friendly neighborhood victim." The figure jumped, panicked, then dashed away, leaving the decoy to sit silently, mocking in the dawn light. Word spread quickly in the neighborhood. Someone had lost their nerve and left the car alone. Betsy was safely returned to her rightful owner, me. And the thief? Well, hopefully, they got a lesson in humility. Reddit loved this one. Here's a comment that made me grin. "Trap car is the ultimate bait and switch. The thief got hoodwinked by duct tape and a little creativity. Classic." And another. "Security camera audio? Next level petty. I want to hire you for my neighborhood watch. If you ever find yourself a victim of petty crime, remember, revenge doesn't have to be reckless. Sometimes, it's about being clever, calm, and a little theatrical." What's your favorite story of turning the tables without breaking the law? Share below. I'm all ears for clever justice. Story 20. I taught my sister a lesson with her own diary. Sibling rivalry is a timeless battlefield, and my sister was a master tactician. Let's call her Emily. Emily had this annoying habit of snooping, going through my stuff, reading my texts, even borrowing my clothes without asking. But the worst? She kept a diary where she wrote all her juicy opinions about everyone in the family, usually not flattering. One day, I found her diary accidentally left open on the kitchen table. And yes, I read a bit, more like a lot. I learned that I was a drama llama. Our mom was too nosy, and our dad could never find his keys if his life depended on it. Harsh, but fair. Instead of confronting her directly, I decided to get creative. I took a blank notebook and made it look exactly like her diary. Same cover, same ribbon bookmark, even scribbled some fake entries about her latest crush and secret snack stash. Then, the pièce de résistance. I slipped the fake diary back into her room where she always kept hers. Over the next few days, I planted tiny clues suggesting someone else had read it. A post-it note that said, "Secrets are dangerous." A mysteriously folded page, a pen left on the bed. She freaked out, accusing everyone but me. Then came the big reveal. I casually mentioned the real diary was in my backpack for safekeeping. Cue the panic. But I only showed her the fake diary, filled with absurd entries like, "Today, I declared myself queen of the cereal boxes. Secretly, I wish my brother would stop being so annoyingly perfect." Emily cracked up. She realized the joke was on her. And from that moment on, she stopped snooping around. Best part? We now have a truce. She respects my privacy. I respect hers. And our family dinners are a lot less dramatic. Reddit's take? One comment stood out. Using her own diary against her? Genius. It's like psychological judo for siblings. Another. This is the sweetest revenge. Funny. Harmless. And it actually brought you two closer. Sibling battles don't always have to end in war. Sometimes, a little laughter and creativity is the best revenge. So, what's your funniest sibling showdown story? Share your tales of mischief, pranks, or peaceful victories below. Story 21. The WA tried to find me, so I exposed them. Living in a neighborhood with an HOA is like having a second set of parents, except these ones send you letters and fines instead of grounding you. Now, I always kept my lawn mowed, my trash bins tucked away, and my porch uncluttered. I played by the rules. But apparently, not well enough for our beloved WA president. Cheryl. Cheryl, 60, going on Supreme Court Justice. She had a clipboard surgically attached to her arm and a nose that could sniff out an unauthorized lawn ornament from 3 houses away. It all started with a letter. Violation. Improper mailbox decoration. Fine. $50. The offense? A tiny magnet that said, "You got this," on the side of my mailbox. A gift from my niece. Cute. Harmless. Apparently, a threat to the aesthetic integrity of the community. I removed it. No big deal. A week later, another letter. Trash bins visible for more than 15 minutes after pickup. I checked my camera footage. Bins were out for 12 minutes. Okay, now I was annoyed. Then came the kicker. $150 fine for unauthorized outdoor seating. That was my camping chair. I'd set it on the porch for one afternoon to read. That was it. Gloves off. See, what Cheryl didn't know was that I work in compliance for a living. I deal with bylaws, policy enforcement, and audits. She had just messed with the wrong neighbor. First, I requested the full WA handbook and financial records, as per state law. They had to provide them within 10 business days. They were hesitant, but I reminded them of their legal obligation. What I found? A treasure trove. Unauthorized expenses labeled community improvement that went straight to Cheryl's landscaper son. Mysterious consulting fees to her best friend. And a rule amendment that had never actually been voted on, but was being enforced anyway. I printed everything, neatly organized, highlighted. Then I attended the next WA meeting. Cheryl opened the floor for community concerns, fully expecting someone to complain about grass height. I raised my hand, calm, smiling. I have some questions about recent violations, and some concerning financial inconsistencies. The silence in the room could have been bottled and sold as anti-anxiety mist. I passed out copies to every homeowner present. People flipped through the pages, eyes widening. Some gasped. One guy whispered, "She's been charging us for mulch she never bought?" By the end of the meeting, a motion was passed to audit the WA board, and Cheryl stepped down 2 days later, for personal reasons. My fines? Waived. Apology letter? Issued. WA enforcement? Suddenly a whole lot more reasonable. I posted the story on Reddit, and the petty justice fans went wild. Here's a top comment that gave me life. You used their own bylaws as a weapon. Cheryl thought she was untouchable until you hit Ctrl+F on the handbook. And this one cracked me up. This is why I keep all my receipts and one petty neighbor away from a PowerPoint presentation of doom. I still live in the same house. My mailbox now has 3 magnets and a tiny garden gnome flipping the bird, tastefully, of course. And Cheryl? I hear she moved into a condo. No WA. If you've ever had a run-in with overzealous WA drama, I want to hear about it. Did you fight back? Did you comply and seethe silently? Or did you go full spreadsheet warrior? Let me know in the comments. Story 22. My boss stole my idea, so I made him regret it. Office life is mostly coffee, emails, and pretending you're not annoyed when someone microwaves fish. But every now and then, it turns into a battleground, and not always in the break room. So, let me introduce you to Brent. Brent was my manager, mid-40s, always wore polo shirts tucked into khakis, and had the unique ability to speak for 15 minutes without actually saying anything. I worked in a mid-sized marketing firm where creativity meant survival. Our client, let's call them Titan Tech, wanted a fresh pitch to rebrand their entire image. We were all invited to submit ideas in a friendly internal brainstorm. I stayed up late for 3 nights, fine-tuning a proposal that blended storytelling, data-driven content, and sleek new visuals. It wasn't revolutionary, but it was good, really good. I submitted it, waited, and then, crickets. A week later, we had a team meeting. Brent stood at the front, smiling like he'd just invented fire. He opened a PowerPoint and started presenting my exact proposal. Slide for slide, even the title. Recode the narrative. I was stunned. He didn't credit me, not even a nod. Everyone clapped like he was some branding messiah. Now, I could have confronted him directly, but I prefer the scenic route, especially when it comes to revenge. I started small. I made subtle improvements to the version he'd presented, better phrasing, tighter visuals, and sent them around casually to the team as random thoughts I was having. A few people noticed. Then I dropped the hammer. A week before Titantech's big presentation, I was pulled into a client pre-meeting to answer technical questions about the pitch. Apparently, Brent had stumbled when asked to elaborate on his own ideas. When I showed up, the client's head of marketing said, "Oh good, you're the one who came up with this, right? Brent mentioned you in passing." In passing, sure. I laid everything out, clean, confident, detailed. Titantech loved it. They requested I be their point of contact for the project moving forward. Brent? He looked like he'd just bitten into a lemon, wrapped in humiliation. From then on, I was looped in directly on high-level strategy calls, and Brent slowly became more of a background decoration than a decision-maker. But wait, it gets better. Our CEO, after hearing about the situation, yes, it got around, quietly reassigned Brent to a mentorship role that basically meant he coached interns. Meanwhile, I got a raise, a title bump, and my own office with a window view. Reddit, of course, had thoughts. One person wrote, "This is the corporate version of Kung Fu. Use their momentum to flip them onto their face." Beautifully done. And another that I pinned because it made me snort laugh. Brent steals idea. You becomes client-facing lead. Brent now. Have you tried turning it off and back on? Office politics are a dance, and sometimes, when someone tries to outshine you with your own light, you just have to flick the switch and let them sit in the dark. Ever had someone take credit for your work? How did you handle it? Fight back or bide your time? Share your clever comebacks in the comments. Story 23. My roommate kept stealing my snacks, so I gave him a surprise. There's a sacred bond between roommates. Pay the rent. Do your share of chores. And, most importantly, don't touch each other's snacks. Apparently, my roommate Jason missed the memo. Now, Jason wasn't a bad guy. He was fun, easygoing, and paid his share on time. But he had a flaw, a snack thief of the highest order. Chips? Gone. Ice cream? Vanished. One time I bought a bag of trail mix. And when I went to get some, all the chocolate pieces were missing. Who does that? At first, I chalked it up to forgetfulness. Maybe I ate more than I remembered. But after the third mysteriously empty cookie box, I got suspicious. So I conducted an experiment. I bought 2 identical bags of cheddar popcorn. One went into the communal pantry. The other, my control sample, went into a box under my bed. The next morning, the pantry bag was half gone. The control bag? Pristine. Case closed. I confronted Jason casually. "Hey, have you been eating my snacks?" He looked genuinely shocked. "No way. Dude, must be ghosts or something." Cute. So I devised a snack-based revenge. Nothing dangerous, just enough to make a point. I bought a new box of cookies, carefully opened the package, and replaced the creamy filling with horseradish mayo. Then resealed everything like a snack ninja. I also replaced my chips with unsalted kale crisps disguised in Doritos packaging. And the final touch? A carton of orange juice, made from carrot water and a dash of vinegar. Then I waited. 3 days later, I heard gagging from the kitchen. Jason burst into the room, clutching his stomach. What was in those cookies? I looked up from my laptop. All innocence. What cookies? He pointed dramatically. The ones in the blue box. Oh, I said, you mean the ones labeled, "Do not eat experimental snacks"? Yeah, I'm testing recipes for April Fools. His eyes narrowed. Seriously? Seriously, you've been eating my food for weeks. Consider it a flavor of justice. To his credit, he actually laughed, then apologized. After that, Jason stopped raiding my stash. He even started buying his own snacks, and labeling them with his name like a proud adult. I posted the saga on Reddit, and naturally, snack justice enthusiasts came out in full force. One top comment: "You didn't just get revenge, you went full snack scientist. Mayo cookies should be illegal. But also, I salute you." And another that got a gold award: "I did something similar with ghost pepper jerky. My roommate cried and still asked for more." You, however, win on creativity. Let's be real, revenge is a dish best served cold. Or in this case, filled with horseradish and disappointment. What's your pettiest roommate moment? Ever get creative to teach someone a lesson? I'm collecting tales of snack-based justice. So drop yours in the comments below. Story 24. My coworker wouldn't stop clicking her pen, so I fought back. Some people find their breaking point during tax season. For me, it was pen clicking. Repetitive, sharp, infuriating. Let me set the scene. I worked in a shared office space with a dozen desks and zero soundproofing. The culprit? Sarah, marketing analyst. Smart, stylish, and unknowingly the metronome of my nightmares. Every meeting, every brainstorming session, every quiet work moment, she clicked her pen like she was training for an Olympic event in irritation. It started small. Click, 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 click. Then it escalated. Click, 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 click. No one else seemed bothered. But I was slowly unraveling. Like a sweater in a blender. One morning, during a call with a very serious client, I muted my mic and screamed silently into my coffee mug. I knew something had to be done. So, I made a plan. A petty, beautiful, silent war. Phase 1. I ordered a bulk pack of pens, without clickers, and subtly replaced all of Sarah's pens with them over a few days. I even used the same brand to avoid suspicion. She was confused. Weird, I could have sworn this was a clicky pen. Oh, I replied, maybe you're just imagining it. She shrugged it off. Phase 2. I uploaded a 3-hour YouTube video of pen clicking. Set to low volume, and played it every time she left her desk. She'd return to confused glances from coworkers. Was someone clicking a pen in here? Yeah, kinda sounded like you. Then I installed a subtle whiteboard in the break room titled, Office Annoyance of the Week. I wrote, in marker, pen clicking equals modern day torture? Discuss. A few coworkers added tally marks. Someone doodled a broken pen. The rebellion was brewing. Finally, I made my move. I gifted Sarah a lovely new pen set for her birthday. High-end, sleek, elegant, and not a single one of them clicked. She opened it at her desk. These are so pretty, she said. I smiled. They're silent, like your thoughts during a Zoom meeting. She looked at me, narrowed her eyes, then burst out laughing. I didn't realize it bothered you that much. I didn't realize you were training to become a percussionist. We both laughed, and something magical happened. She stopped clicking. Completely. Just like that. Months later, we were still joking about it. She even used my story as a case study in her marketing pitch. Know your audience. Especially when they're 2 desks away and plotting. When I posted the tale on Reddit, the click traumatized masses united. One top comment read, "You're the hero every open plan office needs. Quiet, cunning, and clickless." And this one was a personal favorite. I lived with a pen clicker in college. We called her Clickenstein. I feel your pain. Look, revenge doesn't have to be loud. Sometimes, the softest moves have the biggest impact, especially when they come with a gift-wrapped pen set. Ever had a workplace nemesis with a habit that drove you nuts? Tell me your stories of office-level pettiness. I might need inspiration for my next silent battle. Story 25. My cousin mocked my job, so I made him a star. You know that one relative who treats family gatherings like a stand-up comedy audition at your expense? Yeah, that's my cousin Derek. Derek's the kind of guy who peaked in high school but acts like he's still the king of the world. At every Thanksgiving, Christmas, and random Sunday barbecue, he'd roast people like he was headlining a Netflix special, except the jokes were less funny and more And guess who his favorite punchline was? Yours truly. So what do you do again? He asked one year. Grinning. I work in digital content. I replied. Oh, so, you write tweets for a living? He said, loud enough for half the room to hear. Cue the chuckles. Every time, it was something like that. You still working from home? Must be nice to get paid to sit in pajamas. You making real money yet? Or still, chasing exposure? It got old. Fast. But I smiled. I nodded. And then, I plotted. Derek fancies himself an aspiring influencer. His Instagram is a graveyard of gym selfies. Car pics that aren't his. And captions like, grind never stops full score. So, during one family gathering, after the usual round of jokes at my expense, I offered him a proposal. You know, Derek, I've got a decent following on a few platforms. Want me to help you go viral? His eyes lit up like a discount ring light. Seriously? Seriously. Let's make you a star. Over the next week, I created a series of parody TikToks and Reels using Derek's actual quotes, dramatically reenacted by me. Wearing a fake mustache and backward cap. Titles included Alpha Mindset, Beta Vibes, Day in the Life of a Hustler Who Woke Up at 11 Inches. Top 5 Investments I Can't Explain. They were just exaggerated enough to be funny, but painfully accurate. I didn't tag him. I didn't need to. People found the resemblance immediately. The videos exploded. Hundreds of thousands of views. Comments like, I know this dude. He works at my gym and calls everyone, boss. If confidence was a currency, this man would be a billionaire in Monopoly money. Derek didn't find out right away, but eventually, someone sent him a link. He texted me, dude, WTH, is this supposed to be me? I replied, you said you wanted to go viral. You're welcome. A few days later, at a family event, he confronted me, in front of everyone. You made fun of me online? I sipped my cider, just showing off my content skills. You know, the job you said wasn't real? Silence. Then, my uncle burst out laughing. Gotta say, Derek, you kind of walked into that one. After that, he laid off. No more snide jokes. No more, tweetboy, jabs. In fact, he actually asked me for tips. Reddit loved it. One of the top comments read, he wanted clout, and you gave it to him, just not the way he imagined. 10 out of 10 execution. And this gem made me cackle. Sometimes the best revenge is just holding up a mirror and letting the cringe do the rest. Look, I don't mind being the quiet cousin who works from home. But every so often, a little spotlight, strategically angled, can work wonders. Got a relative who thinks they're the family roast master? Or maybe you've served revenge at the dinner table? I'd love to hear your stories. Drop them in the comments. Story 26. My neighbor played loud music, so I turned up the heat. Living next to a neighbor who treats their home like a nightclub isn't exactly a dream come true. Meet Carl. My next door neighbor with a love for bass-heavy music and zero concept of quiet hours. It started with Friday night jams, nothing unusual. But soon, Carl's parties bled into weeknights, and his speakers were calibrated to shake the very foundation of my apartment. Walls vibrated, windows rattled, and my attempts at peaceful reading felt like background noise at a rock concert. I tried polite knocks and friendly notes. Hey Carl, could you turn it down after 10 p.m? His replies, sure, man. Followed by the same volume or worse. One late night, when I was desperately trying to fall asleep to Reddit stories to fall asleep to, and all I got was thumping bass, I knew it was time for subtle revenge. I invested in a set of wireless outdoor speakers and strategically placed them along the side of his house closest to mine. I curated a playlist of his own music, but reversed and slowed to a crawl. Like underwater whale calls mixed with elevator tunes. At exactly 10 p.m., I synced my speakers to blast this, remixed, version, creating an oddly hypnotic, dissonant soundtrack that, to Carl's surprise, seemed to bounce back right at his window. The first time, he stormed outside, confused and annoyed. I was casually watering my plants, holding a mug of tea, pretending not to notice. Over the next week, every time his music started, my speakers kicked in, turning his parties into a bizarre audio experience no one could enjoy, not even him. Eventually, Carl came over, hands raised in surrender. Okay, I get it, you win, I'll keep it down. From then on, the volume was reasonable, and our neighborly peace restored. Posting this tale on Reddit Stories Reddit, I got comments like, turning up the heat with creativity and a smile, love this subtle clapback. And, Neighbor Wars. Now streaming as an ambient album. I want this on vinyl. Ever had a noisy neighbor drive you up the wall? What's your favorite non-confrontational revenge? Let's hear those peaceful warrior stories. Story 27. My friend borrowed my car, so I hid the keys. Friends and cars. A combo that can either be trust-building or trust-shattering. I learned that the hard way with my buddy Mike. Mike is great, except when it comes to borrowing stuff without asking, especially my car. The first time he took it, he forgot to tell me, which resulted in a panicked text asking where it was when I went to leave for work. The second time, he returned it with a full tank of the wrong fuel. Diesel in a gas car. Long story short, tow truck bills. After the third, accidental joyride, I decided enough was enough. So, I did the adult thing and hid the keys. Not in a drawer or a bowl labeled car keys, but in a tiny lockbox disguised as a decorative rock in my garden. No one would suspect the rock next to the hydrangeas held the keys to my sanity. When Mike texted asking for the car, I feigned innocence. Oh, didn't bring it today. A few hours later, I sent a photo of the rock, captioned, "Key location, top secret." He got the message. The next time he came over, he looked around, finally spotting the rock. "Seriously? You hid it like a treasure map?" I shrugged. "After your track record, I thought it was safer this way." He laughed and promised to ask next time. Reddit had a blast with this one. Key rock, the ultimate friendship test. 10 out of 10 for creativity. And another, fueling up with trust issues? Classic move to protect your ride. Ever had to hide something from a friend for their own good? Or had a hilarious, borrowed and broken, story? Share your tales below. I'm all ears. As the gentle flicker of the fireplace dances across the room, I hope these tales of petty revenge and quiet justice have brought a smile to your face and a soothing rhythm to your evening. Each story tonight, from glitter bombs to lawn gnome armies, has shown us how creativity and calm wit can turn the tables on life's little injustices, without crossing the line into cruelty. Remember, these are stories to help you unwind, to remind you that sometimes the smallest acts of cleverness can feel like victories that echo far beyond their moment. Thank you for spending this time with me here on Reddit Stories Reddit, sharing this journey into the charming, mischievous, and sometimes surprisingly heartwarming world of Reddit stories to fall asleep to. Before you drift off, take a moment to reflect on the kindness and resilience behind each narrative, and maybe think about the little ways you can find your own gentle victories. Now, turn off the lights, turn on the fan for some soothing noise, and drift peacefully into your dreams.